Hi there, everyone, and welcome to the From Desk to Dynasty podcast. As always, I'm your host, Owen, sitting down with a super exciting guest today, Tyler. Looking forward to hear all about his insights, his experiences, and just his journey in general. So, without further ado, Tyler, I'll pass it across to yourself for a quick introduction, my friend.
Thank you, Owen, and thank you for having me on. I'm excited to do this. Name's Tyler Rossi. I lead up American Dream Search, which is a sales recruitment firm that right now specializes in the metals industry. So you'll probably notice I have a podcast too. It's called the Recruiter of Steel podcast. We host guests all around the industry, sales professionals, executives. We'll even throw on some recruiters too, because as you know, you need a heart of steel to be a recruiter, and it all goes along. So that's what I'm doing.
Percent very very on brand with the name there. I like it. But yeah, Tyler, just to kick us off, you know, could you maybe share with us a little bit about your journey into recruitment and I guess what drove you towards the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So I came out of college and was fortunate enough to get a tech sales job. So that was good. I worked at Indeed.com, which is the largest job site in the world. I did about 5 years with them, sold to employers around the country, big and small. And so I got my first exposure to recruitment through Indeed, right? But I always had the entrepreneurial bug in me. I never knew exactly what I wanted to do. Tried my hand at resume writing for a little bit, realized that was a little time consuming and not really exactly what I wanted to do. But I did know about recruitment, and I actually was one of the top reps at Indeed to sell its recruitment product when it had it at the time. So I knew how to sell recruitment. I knew about recruitment. I just needed to learn a little bit more about the industry as a whole because I was more on the sales side of things on the advertising portion. So I did my research. I looked up podcasts, as you know, the Resilient Recruiter, the Elite Recruiter podcast, some big podcast names in the space. And I started listening really intently to what the guests were saying, how they scaled their businesses, why they went off on their own, how they did it, what tools they used, what were their tips and tricks. And you start taking little nuggets from each person, right? And then you kind of develop your own style and your own brand. And in 2022, I launched my firm sort of on the side, right? Wasn't diving into it full time. But then after a while and after I made some job changes, I actually was hit with a layoff in 2023 and at the very tail end of the year. And the wife was due with the baby. Baby was due in 8 weeks. It was a really, out of all timing, was not the best time. Let's just say that, right? So I had to make a choice, right? Was I going to continue to keep this as a part-time business and kind of do this on the side, or was I actually going to dive into being a recruitment business owner? And that's all I wanted to do this whole entire time. So I had a little bit of a come to Jesus moment the weekend that I made that decision. After I got laid off, we went to the grocery store. It was football Sunday, so my wife wanted to cheer me up, make some snacks, make some good stuff on a Sunday, right? And we came across this group of girls that were coming around volunteering for their church. And they said, "Hey, we're raising money. Would you like to buy a poster?" So I said, "Sure, let's take a look. What do you got?" And one of the first posters that they pulled out was an image of Jesus handing out his hand over troubled water. And there's a story about that in the Bible. I won't get into detail, but basically that was a sign from God to me that said, "Hey, this is your calling. Put trust in me. You're going to be all right." And then that next Monday morning, 4 a.m., came down here, fired up the laptop, and went headfirst into the business. And we've been doing it ever since.
I love it, my friend. What a story. What a
Thanks.
story. Yeah, I feel with recruitment, it's quite often the case that, no one sets out. I mean, a lot of the people that I've been speaking to, no one sets out thinking like, oh, I'm a recruiter. I want to do recruitment. So your story is super interesting that you went into sales first, but it was sales for Indeed. And that's how you sort of, dipped your toes in the water a little bit. So yeah, super, super interesting story and journey into that there. I guess in the early days of the firm, maybe if we focus on, more so when you decide to go in full time, as opposed to when you were doing it on the side. What sort of was the original vision there, and how has it really evolved over time?
Yeah, so First 6 months, we made $0, right? There was a lot of trial and error, a lot of big learning curve, right? And it wasn't easy, but we had to persevere. And that's part of just being a recruiter, right? You have to persevere, especially in the early days of business, because there's a learning curve, right? A lot of people like to say, oh, recruitment isn't rocket science. And it's not, it's self explanatory, but that doesn't mean it's easy. That doesn't mean it's not tedious. That doesn't mean there isn't a certain skill set that you need to have in order to bill what these big billers are doing, right? So that needed to be learned, and I'm still learning that. Always have a ways to go. But the first 6 months was a learning curve. And probably the biggest learning curve that I needed to overcome was that you need to niche down. The riches are in the niches,
Yep.
as they say, right? That's kind of the case. So, as far as what I had to do, I was going after everything and anything sales. That was my focus. I knew how to do sales. I wanted to recruit sales, but I was going after way too many industries. I was casting too wide a net. Instead, I needed to focus on an area that A, I knew, B, that was interesting to me, and C, that could be a viable business moving forward, right? And then I saw steel. One of my first clients when I was working part time was a steel service center. Ended up filling two positions with them. But then I noticed I had all these other candidates that I spoke to that I wasn't able to place. So I said, you know what? These are some great candidates. They weren't a great fit for this client, but they could be a fit somewhere else. So let me MPC those candidates, right? Let me take those to market, show those to different companies, and maybe we can get our next client. And that's exactly what happened. So, um, fell in love with the steel industry, still learning about it, still love it. Metals as a whole, very interesting space. It's less saturated as opposed to maybe some others like tech, SaaS, right? Some of these other big industries where everyone's going after. But at the same time, the industry is much smaller. So everybody knows everybody. So it's really important that you have a strong brand and a strong name recognition and a strong referral network, because that's what's going to help you. And that's another thing that I really kind of harped on, in my early days, and what I still try to do today is you want to give every candidate and every client an exceptional experience, because people talk, right? Especially in small industries. The amount of candidates and clients that have called me that have came inbound, not just even because of the brand that I've built, but because of the great experience that I've provided someone else, even if they didn't get placed, even if I didn't place their hire, has been so instrumental into the success of the business. So what I say to everybody, like advice wise, right? I'm sure this is what we're getting after. Niche down, find an industry that has potential, but also that you're interested in, and then make sure that you build a brand in that industry. And more importantly, that you let the results speak for themselves. Give people a great experience, produce results. That's going to make you very, very successful.
100%. I think the statement, the riches are in the niches, rings so true. I mean, when people are looking to fill a position, even no matter how big or how small, they want to come to an expert. They want to come to someone who knows the ins and outs, who knows the people, who knows everything there is to know about that industry. And when you are just going sort of a spray and pray method, it can be a little bit more difficult to do that. So yeah, totally agree there. In terms of your business right now, do you focus on more of a retained model? Is it a contingent model? What do you tend to opt for, or is it a bit of a hybrid?
Right now, it's contingent, and some people kind of scoff at that and they say, "Why are you
Yeah.
contingent if you're so specialized?" One of the playbooks that I'm taking is from Alex Hormozy, which $100 million offers, right? And one of the best ways in that he said, and I don't know if I'm saying this the correct way, but you have to basically give an offer, an irresistible offer, right? Something that it would be so hard, so stupid to even refuse. And for me, it's this: hey, I only specialize in steel sales recruitment. As far as I know, I'm the only recruiter that does. So we could work together for free. We could do it on contingent. If I find somebody that's a great fit, you pay me if you make a hire. If you don't, no harm, no foul. Because the only other side of that equation, if you don't sign an agreement with me, is I'm going to be coming after your people. And that's just the truth. So you make a choice, right? You want to work together. We could do it on a contingent basis. You don't pay me anything unless you hire somebody, or you run the risk that I might be taking some of your people.
10%. And it's a true testament to, you know, coming in and you're not really acting as a vendor. Like you are working with the client really to fit their needs and act as a more extension of their team.
And I'll
So
say
yeah,
this too, Owen,
please.
like, I don't do retained as of yet. I'll maybe consider it down the line. It's just not my style at the moment. But I'll say this, I always try to give a client a retained level of service, even if they're on contingent, right? That
Yep.
doesn't mean, oh, because they're contingent, we could sign an agreement and forget about them. No, the experience still matters, right? They're still going to talk to their colleagues. They're still going to talk to their fellow business owners, right? So even if you sign somebody on contingent, if you ghost them the next day, there's still plenty of people in their inner circle that they're going to say, yeah, I worked with that guy and I never heard from him. So that's not what I'm looking to do. I still evaluate every client I talk to. There's still terms that are very important to me. I don't really waver on my fee too much. I've earned it. I'm in a space where I have the network, I have the brand, I have the connections. The fee is the fee. Certain terms are the terms. I do like to have exclusivity, where I know that I'm the only one working on the search. But no, I try to make the offer as attractive as possible so that it really is hard for a client to say no.
Yeah, 100%. I think Alex Hormozy, um, yeah, I think a lot of people can learn from Alex Hormozy in the recruitment, the staffing space, which can tend to be sometimes a little bit more of an old school traditional industry. I think just picking up some of these key learnings from that more digital age and placing them in these types of businesses, it can really go super super far. But yeah, you mentioned you are sort of one of few when it comes to focusing in on sales within the steel industry. Beyond that, Tyler, I mean, recruitment's obviously a super competitive space. What do you think has been your edge, compared to some of the other players out there?
Yeah. I mean, number one, obviously, you find the niche, you build a brand within that niche. What I try to do is create an inbound machine, right? I don't make a ton of cold calls. I really don't. I don't really even
Nice.
remember the last cold call I made, honestly.
Yeah.
A lot of the candidates and a lot of the clients lately have been coming to me, and I'm fortunate for that, right? Um, but that is a testament to posting every day on LinkedIn, right? Not only posting, but providing value through each post, right? Engaging with other players in the space, both big and small, right? Whether it's congratulating someone on a promotion, whether it's seeing somebody that made a job switch and reaching out and offering assistance where they need. If it's somebody that says they're open to work, even if I don't have a role for them, maybe trying to make that connection, right? You build yourself as an authority within a space, and the space doesn't really matter, right? For me, it's steel. For me, it's metals. That's what I'm doing. But if it's accounting, if it's cybersecurity, if it's construction, whatever your thing is, you want to just be the go-to guy, right? The go-to person. Um, the other thing I'll say, that I think is an advantage to me is I come at it from a very casual perspective, at least initially, where I don't go to you and say, "Hey, Owen, I got this role. It pays 130,000. It's unlimited commission. Are you interested?" Right? That's not never how I start a conversation. The first thing I'll say is, "Hey, Owen, first of all, appreciate the time. Thanks for the flexibility. What's got you looking?" Right?
Yep.
Let's talk. Oh yeah, my wife's, really mad because I'm working late nights and I'm in the office every day. I'd like something remote, more flexible, and we really wanted to get to this income. I'm like, great, awesome. What do you bring to the table? Boom, boom, boom. Okay, let's connect the dots, right? And even if I can't connect the dots at that moment, even if I don't have that job on my desk that is that exact fit, I now have you in my database. When something comes down, and like I say, anything could change tomorrow, right? I could then easily shoot a text message over to that candidate and say, hey, I got something for you. Now, that does two things. Number one, that gives that candidate a great experience because
Yep.
we've already had that conversation. I'm literally just connecting the dots, showing that I actually listened and cared, right? And the other thing is for the client, it doesn't take me 2 weeks to find somebody, right? I've built the network. What they're paying for is that work that I did prior. So even if, and this is why I do contingent, this is why I keep my fee the same. You're not paying me for the work that I do when we start the search. You're paying me for the work that I've done these last 2 years,
Yep.
building this network, the 10,000 followers on LinkedIn, the brand, the inbound, right? You're paying for all of that, whether you make a hire in 7 days or 70 days, right? That's what it is. You want to base your value and your brand and just the work that you do on value, not your hourly contribution to anything.
100%. And I think it's such a good way to go into these conversations because naturally you're in the people business. It's all about building relationships long term. Yeah, and I think again a big thing I say to all of my clients is, people don't buy better nowadays. They're going to buy different. So, that one candidate might have spoke to yourself and a couple of others, but if you're doing something different, you're approaching the conversation like a friend, not
Yeah.
super, super transactional,
Yeah.
just going to pay dividends in the long run.
That's the way it is. And that doesn't negate the seriousness of it, right? It also doesn't negate the fact that I
Yeah,
will vet you, and work on behalf of my client to find like the top 1%, right? But at the same time, it's good to give everyone a chance, everyone a listen, everyone an experience. And what I ultimately want it to be, candidate or client, is that we're on a basis where if, you want to go out for a beer and have a drink, like we're buddies like that, right?
yeah,
But on the same token, we can get great business done. I can get a great deal for you as a candidate. I can negotiate a great compensation, get you in a good company. And for my client, yes, I can get you that top 1% sales talent. So it's
100%.
blending the two.
100%. Yeah, it's just finding balance, 100%. But yeah, looking forward now, Tyler, it's clear that you are building something super, super impressive here. I'm always interested to dig into the brains of how, leaders in this space are viewing the future. So I guess like looking ahead over the next 12 to 24 months, what are the biggest growth priorities for, yourself and the business?
Yeah. So I set out a goal to double every year, right? And
Nice.
eventually that's going to be difficult, right? So I'm waiting to see when that happens. Right now, we're on track to double what we did last year.
Nice.
And that is good. At the same time, once you start hitting the halfway point in the year, you start to think, okay, the motions have to be in place now for me to make that goal possible next year, right? You need to come in with the right clientele. You need to come in with the right amount of billings, and there needs to be a plan going forward, right? So for me, the next 12 to 24 months, um, I put out a post the other day on LinkedIn. I don't know if you saw it, but I have a 10, 20, 30-year vision for American Dream Search, right? I'm not 30 yet, so I'm probably assuming I'm going to be working another 30 years, probably more with this economy. So
Yeah.
that's the case. But um, you know, some people will stay an individual operator their whole life and they're okay with that, or maybe that's the path that they've chosen. For me, I think I want to build something bigger. I think I want American Dream Search to be, a sales recruitment firm that covers multiple different uh, verticals. For me, at the moment, and probably the next 12 to 24 months, it's going to be maximizing my desk, maximizing, um, you know, our space in the steel industry and the metals industry, dominating that sector, being the go-to authority for sales talent within the metals industry, growing our book to 1 million plus. That's the goal. Whether that requires certain tools, certain assistance, like that might be the case. But um, until I could grow my own individual desk to the 7-figure point and feel like that's at a maximum point, like there's no room to grow, we've, you know, we're maximizing what we can do in that industry, then I'll probably look at other verticals that are adjacent but different, right? The building material space is interesting to me. Construction, transportation, supply chain, even healthcare, right? There's sales in every vertical that contribute greatly to America and the engine that runs, right? So that's what we want to do. But before I, spread ourselves too thin and take on more folks and try to hit different industries, I think we need to do one thing at a time, and it's just perfect what we're doing now, which is in the metal space. Make sure that we've maximized that we're, reached a point of, not diminishing returns, but the growth there isn't going to be doubling every year, right? And
Yeah.
then we have to look at new avenues to grow.
100%. I think you're so right. Zone in on one thing, kill it, crush it, reach optimal state, and then yeah, think to where else can we diversify into. So I think a super good strategy, and also doubling growth each year. I love ambition. Yeah, I absolutely love that. So, yeah, I think you're onto a winner there.
Yeah,
But
it's just
just
it's all math. It's all math, man. I mean, think about it. You have an average placement fee, right? For us, it's 25K. Um, you just got to double the amount of placements that you're doing in a year, or got to increase your fee. You can increase
yeah,
the fee in two ways. You could increase the percentage that you're charging. You could increase what you're charging. Right now, we just do base salary. Maybe we do total comp, right? Or you can get more executive level roles. Or you could do a combination of everything, right? So that's kind of where my head's at. But um, I think there's more we can produce on a volume basis. I want to see what we can maximize there. And then once I feel like I'm at my limit. I can't do any more because we're only human. Then we'll look to expand.
100%. It's all just about predictable revenue, and I think working back the way is the way to do it. It's like if I can get this many people over this time scale, we'll be able to do what we set out to do. So no, 100%. Yeah, and just in terms of if there was like the number one thing, Tyler, if you could fix it or improve it right now, that would have the biggest impact on your firm's growth. Obviously, we're hitting targets, we're on track. But what do you think that would be?
Number one thing to improve for my firm's growth.
Yeah, if you could just fix it or improve it in the snap
Yeah.
of a finger.
Well, I probably work about 4 hours a day. So, working time, and you're probably scratching your head and saying, why are you only
Yeah,
doing 4 hours a day? And that's because my wife works as well. And we have an 18-month-old daughter that
nice.
we don't have in daycare. So we're managing the childcare, right? So it's back and forth, back and forth. And that has look, daughter's beautiful, love hanging out with her, but that has it's
Yeah,
impacted the amount of time and investment I could put into the firm, right? So fortunately now we're at a place where she's able to take a step back from her role, invest more time into childcare, also helping out at American Dream Search. So yeah, I'm excited about that. That's what we got going on for the back half of this year, and I do expect it to have a pretty intense impact for sure.
for sure. For sure. No, no, I love it. I mean, getting to this level with 4 hours a day is insane in itself. So yeah, big kudos for that, Tyler. But yeah, I mean, in terms of looking past over, you know, your whole journey with American Dream Search, are there any strategies or ideas that you have tried that you found interesting, but maybe not quite worked out, the way that you'd hoped?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think initially when I tried again doing anything and everything,
Yep.
that didn't work. Also, mass emailing didn't work because you're not in control at that point, right? You don't know who your emails are going out to. The clients that respond, are they the best clients? Are they clients that you want to work with? Not necessarily, right? So I think actually taking a step back from a lot of the automation and mass emailing that was a big thing 2022, 2023, and being like, you know what, I'm going to take new school tools, new school AI technology, and fuse it together with the old school approach of that's my go-to guy, right? Because
Yep.
here's the thing, like, American Dream Search is a brand. I'm trying to build that. Everyone's got their own company name. But at the end of the day, it's about you as the individual. It's about Owen. It's about what Tyler brings to the table, right? Because when people are talking in an industry and they say, oh, yeah, do you know a recruiter that can help me with this? Oh, yeah, I work with Tyler. They're not really going to remember the name of your company or brand as much. So build your personal brand first, then let the wins speak for themselves for your company and scale that as a result. But no, I would say, don't have shiny object syndrome. Don't go after every new shiny tool. Build your brand, do good business the right, tried and true, old school way, and then you could start infusing some of these cool tools in it to make you more efficient.
Yeah, I was just it was interesting you mentioned that. I seen your LinkedIn post today about AI and people saying it's taking over jobs, all this stuff. Would you be able to share your stance on that and like how you think it potentially fits into the industry right now?
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I think generalist recruiters will probably be put out of business through AI. I just don't see the value that you're going to bring if you have no expertise, no network within a specific field, because AI is going to be able to automate that. We already have tools right now that are able to source. Look at People GPT. Look at, even some tools that you could do with LinkedIn automation with a hyperlink, right? Um, and then we have tools like Quill, which I'm using right now, which are automating your screening, putting together a submittal template for you. um, Eventually there's going to be a point where you don't need a generalist recruiter, right? The recruiters that will be left standing, and even the same thing with salespeople as a result, are going to be the ones that could provide value beyond you know generalist terms, right? You're a person in the industry, right? You're the steel recruiter, you're the construction recruiter, you're the accountant recruiter, right? You have connections that people that are maybe not even online, right? People that you've talked to over the years, and you know their true feelings and what their family life is like and their true motivations, right? Something that AI can't replicate. I think those recruiters will weather the storm, at least for the foreseeable future. Who knows what the distant future is going to bring? But yeah, I think you really need to evaluate where you stand in the market and how you differentiate yourself from AI, because it's coming and there's no stopping it.
100%. And I think it always goes back to, people buy from people. I don't think that phrase is ever going to be turned into people buy from robots. Um, especially if you are able to come across that expert, you're in the people's business. That's never fading away. I think it's just a case of, and as you said, you're utilizing a few of the tools currently. It's like, how can we, pick up break through the noise, find the ones that are actually going to work, implement them in our business, so we can streamline this, we can streamline that, and basically make my life easier. Um, so yeah, definitely space for it, but just not at the, not at the level of which people are getting fully put out just yet.
Yeah,
But
we're not there yet. I'll say this though. I think AI is going to make the job a lot easier, to where the point, if you are a generalist and you really don't have those industry connections and that network and that extra added layer of value, it might be so easy for somebody internally, like a hiring manager, to plug and play some of these tools that they could do the job for you, because now it takes so much less time, right?
yeah,
So that's my biggest concern for agency recruiters, especially the generalists, is that um, our jobs is going to get easier, which is good, but at the same time, you still need to provide that value to charge that fee, right? And if the hiring manager is able to do what you do through a series of three or four tools, then the generalists might go away, and it's really going to be the industry experts, the one that provide an extra layer of business value and market insights, that are really going to probably weather that storm. um, I'll say this too. I think with agency recruiters, I'm no tech person by any means, but I think it's very, very important to stay up to date on what's coming out there, what's going on, see these new tools, test them out, even if it's not for you, because you want to stay at that cutting edge of technology. Because one thing that we'll see with AI is that it's productive, right? It's able to do the work that normally an assistant would, or a virtual assistant would, right? So I think what we'll start to see is small businesses, like one, two, three-person shops, grow to maybe eight figures, or like some ridiculous number, just because they're so in tune with AI that their
yep,
process is so streamlined, they're so efficient, and they're able to make that money. And they provide the value to the client because they already know how to use the tools. They already know how to do everything. So the client's like, yeah, I don't want to learn everything. Like, if you could do it, just do it. So that's where I think we're headed, probably the next 10 years down the line. But like I said, recruitment, and you put it perfectly, like, people buy from people. You got to have that human touch, but you also have to be on top of these technologies that are changing the way it's done. Otherwise, you're not going to be as efficient, A, and B, somebody that is in tune will probably put you out of business.
overtake you 100%. And I think, yeah, you're touching upon something really interesting. Like, over time, those generalist recruiters are likely going to get robbed out to some extent. Like, if you were speaking to someone like that, what type of tips could you give them in their journey to become more of that expert and really broaden their network and become that known player in this space? If you could give maybe two or three tips, what comes to the top of mind?
Yeah, Here's the thing. I think the riches are in the niches, and I'll be a staunch proposal of that because that's what I know. I do know there are, some exceptions to the rule, and there are some generalist recruiters that are absolutely crushing it right now, right? So I just want to put that out there. I do know a few names. What I will say is this, with AI and these tools, that's especially important to them because your network isn't just in one particular space, right? It's all over. Accountants, salespeople, customer service people, engineers, right? And you need a lot of the times what makes it so much easier to be industry focused is that I don't need to start a search from scratch, right? The sourcing side of the puzzle is a lot less time consuming because I've already made the connections,
Yeah.
right? um, AI is going to first tackle that sourcing side of things and make it easier, make it quicker, make it more streamlined. So for generalist recruiters, I would say get up to date on the new sourcing features that AI is bringing because that's going to make your job especially a whole lot easier, right? Um, and I say the other thing, like you want to be known as um, a talent sniper, right? You want to be somebody that is not just shooting over resumes that look like they're an 80% match, barely doing a screen, right? You want to be somebody that calls someone up and says, "Hey, Owen, I know you're looking to grow your business. I got a top sales guy. He worked at XYZ competitor. He brought in X amount of revenue. He's pissed off because they changed his comp plan. If you give him XYZ, you're going to pick him up and you're going to grow XYZ more next year." That's a hell of a lot better pitch than, "Hey, can I take on a search for 20%? I'll send you 10 resumes." That's
Yeah.
that's the value you got to bring to the table now.
100%. 100%. I think put perfectly. Put absolutely perfectly.
The job is changing. Technology is changing the way we do the job. What we need to do as recruiters is make sure that the value that we're delivering to the table is presented in a different way, right? Maybe in the 90s, early 2000s, you could say, "Hey, you know, I'm a recruiter. I specialize here. How could we help?" And that would pick you up a few searches. I think as we get into more technology and everything that's changing everything so fast, I think we got to bring that added layer of expertise, and that's what's going to move the needle.
100%. No, I love it. I think some really, really good insights there, Tyler. Really good insights. But yeah, just sort of coming to a bit of a wrap up now. So as you've carried on through this journey as a leader, as a founder, what has been the most rewarding part for you?
Most rewarding part, I think it's just seeing the growth of everything. Obviously, seeing the fruits of your labor, right? Being able to, retire my wife and give my family a great experience, and you know, not even material items, but just time back in your day, right? Being able to say, "You know what? It's 12 o'clock. Let's go over to the pool and take a 2 hour lunch, right?" We could do that. I'll take a call, for 10 minutes and I'll come back. The flexibility that recruitment gives is great. Um, I'm also just really happy to see the wins of my clients and candidates, right? When somebody gets a 20% raise and now they can buy that new house and they can buy that car they always wanted, that's as a direct result of your efforts and your negotiating, right? That's nice.
It's huge. Yeah.
Same thing with your clients. Like if you know that they're growing now and they were working 70 hours a week and now they got time back in their day because they got a great person that doesn't need a ton of training and you help fill that spot, that's rewarding. Like you have an impact even beyond the dollar amounts, right? Like it goes so much further.
100%. And I think that's the side of recruitment that a lot of people don't actually see because they don't actually get to feel it. They don't see the knock-on effect that you are having through, finding an amazing hire for a company that's going to put them in a trajectory towards where they're trying to go, or as you touched upon perfectly, finding that dream placement for the candidate who can now, go on an extra holiday a year or do whatever it is that they've always wanted to do. So, yeah. But again, forgive me, Tyler, fairly generic question here, but just interesting to see where your head
Shoot.
goes. If you could give yourself one piece of advice, you were starting this whole journey again, what do you think that would be, my friend?
Um, Obviously, keep your faith in God, right? It'll work out. Riches are in the niches. You're gonna hear me saying that. and trust yourself, right? Trust yourself, trust God, because um, you know if you have it or not, right? Like you know if something's for you or if it's not. Don't doubt yourself because of the ebbs and flows. Like this is a roller coaster of a business. Keep going, push through the hard times, and the other thing too, the work that you do now will pay you in about 2 months. So keep
Yep.
that in mind, right? That's the way our business works.
100%. I love it, my friend. I love it. But yeah, I mean, Tyler, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story with us, sharing all your amazing insights and experiences. Where can people find you? Where can people find your company?
Yeah, company's AmericanDreamSearch.com. Hope you like the website, made it myself. LinkedIn, Tyler Rossi, that's where I'm most active. You could also check me out on Instagram at Recruiter of Steel. I think X or Twitter is the same thing, but you'll mainly
Yeah,
find me on LinkedIn. That's where you're gonna find me.
perfect. Well, everyone go blow Tyler up. He's a busy man, make him even busier. And yeah, thank you again, Tyler. It's been great speaking.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely, Owen. Thank you for the time. And to everybody out there, good luck and keep the faith.
Thank you, my friends.